Oh yeah, this is gonna be a good one, y'all. This is gonna be a good one. All right, let me see if the sound is working. Can y'all hear me? Okay, cool, cool. All right, this is gonna be a good one, y'all. This is gonna be a good one. We're gonna cover Shakur Stevenson versus Jamel Herring, but for those of you that are Mikey Garcia fans, which I highly doubt that he ever had like this hardcore fan base, you're not gonna like this video. You're not gonna like this live at all. And I don't give a fuck. It's been in my mind for a long time, so you just gotta deal with it, man. But let's cover this prediction first. Shakur Stevenson versus Jamel Herring. I think it's gonna be a decent fight, but I think Shakur Stevenson is very athletic. He's learning very quickly. He's already getting into a rhythm to where like he's gonna start knowing how to use his power and turning on shots a lot more. And I think Jamel Herring, he's a good fighter. He has good fundamentals. Uh, Bomac has trained him very well, but I don't see like the same pizzazz like as I see in someone like Terrence Crawford and Jamel Herring, with all due respect. And he's a little bit on the older side, not like the oldest fighter, like because I consider everyone considers fighters like going old like at what 35, 36. To me it's always like they're still in their primes like in their early 30s and stuff. So Jamel Herring isn't too old, but I think Shakur Stevenson is much more athletic and he doesn't have that much wear and tear as a Jamel Herring. So my prediction for this fight, I think Shakur Stevenson is going to win by a decision, a close decision. Well, not a close decision. I shouldn't say that, but a hefty decision to where it's not even going to be like disputed. Somewhere like around the 8-4, 9-3 type of range. But it wouldn't surprise me if Shakur Stevenson like ended up dominating every round. So I'm kind of expecting like not too much, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did like dominate the whole fight. So I'm picking Shakur Stevenson. I see a bright future for him, like at the weight class 130 pounds, 135 pounds, if he's getting the right opponents, like if they're willing to fight him, then yes, he could beat everybody. And I see something happening for him like in the long run, like at 140, 147, with guys that we see at 135 right now. But I don't really like talking about 135 that much because there's a lot of gossip going on in that division, and it's horrible, man. It's fucking terrible. Like, I don't even like talking about it at all. Like, anytime I see in my feed, like, from a reporter talking about Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, that whole circle, man. I'm not just gonna include two fighters. That entire damn roster of that same age group. I don't want to say like the older groups, like Lomachenko and everything like that. I mean, Lomachenko does have some type of involvement as well, but man, like it's horrible, man. Like all this gossip, all of this nagging, all of this whining, like it's bad. Like to the point where you're trying to force everyone's opinions on something, man. Like no, man, like that's stupid. You know what I mean? Like from all these reporter channels, like the ones that are involved in the media, like covering like the whole entire saga that's happening, but there's no action, man. Like there's just no action period in that division. And we're already what, like 2 years, almost 2 years into like talking about this entire saga that's been brewing between like all these like fighters, that whole circle specifically of Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Ryan Garcia. I know it's a hot topic to talk about them, because they have some type of involvement outside of the sport. Some of them are social media savvy, like they're influencers, all of this other stuff. But even though you're rooting for somebody in that division, it's still not gonna change anything, you know, like because we're still dealing with this whole uh round of egos. You know, it's like a round table of egos that are going at each other. So I don't really see anything happening too soon for it. But for me, I think Shakur should actually like stay and clean out 130, 100. You know, I don't want to say 126 because he's already gotten too big for the division. But if he does stick around, man, you know, like at 130 pounds, that would be the best option for him because if he goes up too soon to 135, he's still going to be involved in that whole mess that's going on there, you know. So I really believe that he should fight someone like Oscar Valdez and whoever's there, you know what I mean? And just clean up that division, you know, get all the fights there as much as he can. And he could gain a lot of experience fighting like different fighters from there, you know, because they have like different styles. Oscar Valdez has a different style from somebody like a Mickey Roman, obviously Jamel Herring, Miguel Berchelt. He's still out there too. But if he still wants to be active and he still wants to keep himself in shape, you know what I mean? And that's not something that I'm seeing like much of a problem in Shakur Stevenson, but I do want to see him a lot more active, and I don't want him to get involved in that whole situation that's going up there because that'll be stupid because then that's just going to prolong everything that he's been trying to do, you know, to legitimize himself, you know what I mean, into that bracket. What I think is going to happen is like everyone is gonna fight each other. Well, not everyone, but there's gonna be some big fights, but at 135 pounds, and then like some of them are not gonna take it anymore, and they'll just move up to 140 pounds, and that's when you're gonna start seeing some of those young fighters that everyone has been arguing for the past couple of years end up taking losses, man, to guys that we already knew that participated, you know, in the WBSS. Uh, that were there probably since Terrence Crawford was around there. And it's just going to really make them look bad because they never had the preparation because they were just so focused on landing a fight with somebody in that division specifically, or or they end up just waiting it out. You know what I mean? Like just sitting back, arguing with everyone else. You know, like relying on what the people on the internet say. So if Shakur wants to like you know, like stay active a lot more, and then I think he should stay at 130 pounds for now. Just clear it out, in my opinion, of course. So either ways, I'm picking Shakur Stevenson to win by a unanimous decision. I'm gonna say like 9-3, 10-2 type of deal. So just too athletic, man. You know, like I see that he has a great boxing acumen and he's one of the most athletic fighters in the entire sport right now, you know, in that same age bracket, you know, up there with like a Jaron Ennis, Rashidi Ellis, um, who else? Can't think of anyone else right now, but yeah, he's definitely up there. So I'm kind of looking forward to that fight a little bit, but not too much because I already know like what Shakur can do and I know what Jamel Herring can do. So that's my opinion on it. But we're going to talk about this Mikey fight, but excuse me. All right, y'all, I'm back. All right, Mikey just lost this Saturday to a guy named Sandor Martin, and he's from Spain. And everyone was talking about before the fight. Oh, and Mikey, I think Mikey's going to get into a fight with Regis Prograis very soon. Oh, yeah, yeah. Mikey is dreaming about all of these fights. Mikey versus Manny Pacquiao. Oh, that's a good fight. Oh, yeah. Oh, Mikey versus Josh Taylor, which I like. I personally would have liked for him. Mikey versus Keith Thurman. Mikey versus Gervonta Davis. Mikey versus Devin Haney. Mikey versus who else? Mikey versus I know there was some other fights out there that they tried uh hyping up, but no action. But we're not going to proceed any further in saying those names because Mikey is a dreamer, man. Like that's all he does. He's fantasizing and dreaming about fights every single time, and it just bit him back in the ass, you know. And I've been seeing Mikey like for the past couple of years, ever since he lost to Errol Spence, and his work ethic outside of the ring has been poor. You know, like he's been getting fat. I literally seen last year, like on his Instagram post, him drinking like a Dr. Pepper, a soda, and just drinking a lot, you know, like he even looked pudgy at one time, like last year, where like his cheeks were so fat, like you could even see like his love handles, you know, like even when he was wearing a jacket and shit. So it's disappointing, like seeing Mikey like in this type of condition, you know what I mean? When he really should have been like something around the lines of like where I wouldn't say around the same level of stardom as Canelo, but he should have been up there. You know what I mean? Like close to it. If he ended up fighting Lomachenko for undisputed, you know, and then afterwards he could go up to 140, participate in the WBSS tournament that was there, or just basically like stay around that 135 pound or 140 pound bracket, you know, because this shit shouldn't be happening for him, you know, like where he has to take all these tune-up fights, or he's taking like these has-beens, you know, and he's even struggling with the has-beens, or like these fighters that nobody even knew about in the first place, man. Like we even saw him struggle against Jesse Vargas. Like what the fuck, man? Like this guy was taking a lot more shots, and Jesse Vargas wasn't letting off of him, you know. Like a guy like Jesse Vargas shouldn't even be like giving Mikey like any type of struggle at all, you know. Like I kind of expected a lot more from Mikey when he fought this guy, man, Sandor Martin, you know, and just him like sitting on the sidelines, like dreaming about fights, you know, like with Manny Pacquiao. That's what costed him the later portion of his career. That's what costed him just basically that entire legacy, you know what I mean, with Lomachenko. And you know what started it? The Errol Spence fight, him wanting to go up against Errol Spence, because he was thinking like in a fantasy world that he saw something with Errol Spence, and if he would have beaten Errol Spence, Manny Pacquiao would have hopped on the stage and they would have had their crazy big quote unquote fight, mega fight. And that was basically his fantasy, but unfortunately it didn't happen like that, you know. And he kind of, well, he actually did skip on undisputed just for a fantasy to go into smithereens, you know. And he didn't even get Errol Spence at any type of disadvantage either. Like Errol Spence, this was a Errol Spence that was like full blood and, you know, full chip. Like he had a blue chip on his shoulder, or like a chip on his shoulder. I don't even know how to say it correctly. I totally butchered that horribly. Sorry about that, y'all. But you get the point that I'm saying, that Mikey, man, like Mikey is the biggest disappointment in all of the sport right now that's active, like from all of these fighters. And he really should have been something a lot more than that. Just based on like him, uh, just being around Robert Garcia and all of these past fighters that have been training there at the RGBA gym, you know. And you kind of would have thought that Mikey Garcia would have been the guy, man, like that you know, succeeded. Yeah, I would say like succeeded Marcos Maidana, you know, like after those performances against Floyd and Adrian Broner and stuff. But apparently, man, like Mikey Garcia doesn't really look at boxing the same way anymore. And you could see it like in the way he fights, and look at the shape of him, man. Like he looks like a rag doll. Like his head is very big, like his cheeks are pudgy. Like this guy's not in it for boxing anymore. And just seeing him, man, like, you know, talk about it. Like this guy's always just talking with Ellie, drinking a soda. Like to me, I'm not trying to be funny, but if he just doesn't want to stick around in boxing anymore, he should probably just retire, man. Start a podcast with Ellie Seckback. Yeah, he should start a podcast with Ellie Seckback and just talk about boxing like that and get fat. You know what I mean? And that's basically Mikey's career. So Mikey Garcia, man, like it's disappointing. And I actually had him in top 3 pound for pound at one point, like many years ago. I can't even remember how I numbered it, but I know Mikey Garcia was definitely up there for sure because he was a pound for pound. Well, he was pound for pound, you know what I mean, in 4 different weight classes, world champion. So it is disappointing, man. Like just looking at Mikey and the way that he moves, like the way that he speaks about these fights is already making me cringe. Like every time that he mentions a fight with Manny Pacquiao, I cringe. Like as if that's has any type of value after the Errol Spence fight. Or him like trying to butt into negotiations and stuff, ruining opportunities for Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence to get a shot at Manny Pacquiao. Like just him being a guy that just butts into everything, man, like has been horrible. Like this guy just like ruins every type of fight anytime he interjects himself into uh any type of fight in any division, whether it be 140 pounds, 147 pounds. Like this guy really believes that has some type of relevance in boxing, in terms of like him being a big name, like as if he thinks that he's on an equal playing level, like an equal footing with Canelo. Excuse me. So, um, it's bad, man. It is real bad. And another thing, man, like I mean, he lost to a guy from Spain, man. Like why would you be losing to a guy from Spain, a Spaniard? You know how bad that is? Real bad. Like, can you imagine if he fought him last month? That place probably would have been torn up by the fans if he lost to Sandor Martin in September. That would have been horrible, man. Horrible. Mikey needs to do something, man. Like he really needs to think this out. Really needs to assess himself, like period, instead of just sitting around and just impulsively thinking about a rematch, man. Like, does he really love this sport or not? So that's what I think about it. And it's bad, man. Like how inactive fighters are, and this is the result of this, like everyone fighting once a year or not even fighting at all in a year. Because I've seen a lot of top level fighters have done this already. Keith Thurman, for example. I'm just saying a name already. That way you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And Mikey is falling into that category. And everyone is saying all PBC fighters, all PBC. This isn't a PBC thing, man. This is another type of thing. You know what I mean? With other fighters in different outfits and stuff. And it's bad, like how everyone is just advocating it. You know what I mean? Like trainers are advocating it. Like I've seen some trainers that say that, oh, well, I think that is a good idea for the fighter to fight only once or twice a year, just to preserve any type of damage. I get it about the whole damage thing, man, but 3 times a year, like there's enough break, within a 2 month what is it, 2 month lapse where the fighter can recover and then get back to training. And they don't really need to go all out in sparring all the time, So that's my issue with it, Like there's a lot of trainers that are enabling this, a lot of fans enabling this. And that's how it gets into the fighter's head to where like they think, you know what? I'm just gonna wait for a big fight, or you know what? I'm just gonna keep myself active. But I'm gonna end up fighting all of these low level opponents. You know what I mean? Like not even inside the top 10. That makes it worse than than fighting a guy that's not even what is it? Not even a champion. You know what I mean? At least fight a top 10 contender and stuff. You know, and it just makes it worse that you lose to a guy like this, and rather than a guy that was a former champion or a champion or even a top 10 contender, top 5 contender. It just makes it worse. Like, I could just imagine Regis Prograde being there that same night. Mikey would have been eviscerated. I'm sorry, y'all, but he would have been eviscerated horribly, man. You know, it kind of would have been the same way as the Errol Spence fight, but I think Regis Prograde would put a lot more pressure on him, you know, because I think Errol Spence was demonstrating his boxing skills in that fight against Mikey Garcia, which he thoroughly dominated. But I think Regis Prograde would have just run him over, man. Like he would have just run through him and shit. Especially the Mikey that I saw that didn't even look like he wanted to be there. He was never like an athletic guy, man, but he had some type of uh consciousness of being fundamentally sound and everything, not to get hit like that, you know? And he has some type of a wherewithal, you know, where he understands like how and when to launch his offense, you know what I mean, and not miss like that, you know. Making all of these amateur mistakes just makes him look bad, you know what I mean? Like it's just like disappointing, like seeing Mikey in this type of predicament, and now everyone has to look at him differently. I have to look at him differently, and I actually thought that he was a great fighter, you know what I mean? You know, like in terms of his skill set and the way that he fought. I, heck, at one point I thought he was one of the most technically sound fighters in the sport, you know, but Mikey did this to himself. Like he really did this to himself, and it's sad because like I actually thought that he would have beaten Lomachenko. You know, I was ready to put my first ever bet like on Lomachenko losing to Mikey Garcia. Matter of fact, I actually thought Mikey was gonna knock him out, and I was pretty confident about it, you know, but Mikey really believes that he's this high level fighter, you know, like that really believes that he's on the same level as a Canelo. And look what it costed him, you know? Look what it costed him. And his legacy could have been a lot better than this if he became undisputed at 135 pounds. And he probably would have had a shot at 140 pounds becoming undisputed if he stayed active a lot more and he was still in the gym, like he wasn't focused on anything else, you know, because I always see that he's focused on all of these businesses that he has, or he's training to be in law enforcement and stuff. But um, that really clouds everything, you know what I mean? Like when you're in the training camp and stuff, then how are you going to focus on your own fight? You know, how are you going to focus on advancing yourself as a fighter? Because like all of these fighters, man, at 140, 135 pounds, they're not even playing, man. You know, like you got high level skill sets there. It's not the same as 7 years ago, you know, like when Crawford was in the division. It's a lot more different, you know. You got guys like Josh Taylor that could switch it, that could fight from southpaw and box and be offensive, you know what I mean? A lot more offensive in both stances, man. Like that's something real hard to deal with, you know. And I even think Mikey Garcia had a chance to fight Terrence Crawford years ago, but he didn't move on that shit, you know, because that would have been amazing if Terrence Crawford could defend his undisputed title, make his first defense of the undisputed title against Mikey Garcia. But that fight never went through because Mikey's a dreamer, man. Like that's all he is. He's a dreamer. And I blame the people around him, you know, like all of the media, you know what I mean, that really pumped him up all of these years, careful matchmaking. And I don't know, man, like I really think that Mikey probably should retire, man. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of with that notion, you know. It sounds crazy, but seeing like how Mikey's mental state was like during that entire fight, like it looked bad, man. Like it looked horrible, you know, like losing to a guy from Spain. Uh do you know how like deep Spain is with boxing? Not deep at all. Matter of fact, Spain is only good for like what? Like I mean not good for, but they're only known to be good like in different types of sports, man, that involve like a ball, you know? Like they're involved in football, which is soccer, basically. And that's really like one of their most known sports, not really for boxing at all, you know. And Mikey lost to a guy like that in October. I still can't believe that shit. I'm kind of glad that he didn't do that in September. I'm kind of glad that he didn't do that in May, because that would have been horrible. I probably would have felt disrespected by Mikey Garcia. You know what I mean? Like if he did that shit, because I don't know, man. Like it's bad. You know, like I said before, losing to a guy from Spain on Mexican Independence Day, nah, man, fuck that shit, bro. I don't care who it is, man. Like, you better be on your P's and Q's and shit if you're fighting a guy from Spain and shit, you know what I mean? Like, it could be any fight. I wouldn't care if you lost to an American fighter. I wouldn't care if you lost to a fucking, oh my God, man. Never lose to a guy from Spain on Mexican Independence Day, bro. Never, never do that shit again. Well, in October, you're lucky that it was in October, because if it were, like I said before, if it were in September, it would have been horrible, man. Disaster. And like I said before, y'all, like Mikey Garcia really needs to reassess himself. Uh, Me personally, I hope that he retires, because I'm getting kind of tired of him interjecting himself. And I really, you know what would piss me off is if like he continues to interject himself. Like, you know what? I think the big fights are still out there for me. You know, like I think I could get a Regis Prograis and all of that. Forget the Sandor Martin rematch. I mean, God, man, that would piss me off, because a lot of fighters actually do have that mentality where they don't want to right the wrong, or you know, like do all of this other stuff. Sorry, y'all, I saw something on the screen, but um and like I said before, man, I respect more fighters like if they try to right them wrong, you know. That's why I respect somebody like Lomachenko, because like he actually did try to chase down that Salido rematch, you know. And Salido didn't want to take it, you know what I mean, from what it looked like. I could be wrong. I'm not gonna play that whole I'm gonna look for sources and boxing scene or anything like that. But I did see that Lomachenko was really, really persistent to look for that rematch, because I saw that in the history of his whole amateur career, he was actually able to avenge his losses there. So that's what I'm all about. You know what I mean? If a fighter wants to avenge any type of loss, I'm all for it, you know, because I love redemption stories. I love um fighters getting in their get back. But damn, man, like Mikey really shouldn't be losing to guys like Sandor Martin. But Sandor Martin was a real good boxer, man. I'm not gonna lie, he boxes well, and he could be a problem. You know what I mean? He If he wanted to market himself, I think he should fight on. It's gonna sound mean, and it's gonna sound crazy, but this guy can market himself as like the whole executioner type of deal, man. Because um, the way that he did Mikey, man, it's gonna piss off a lot of people right now, man. You know, um, but to be honest, man, I don't really think that Sandor Martin would last against any like top level Mexican fighters around those areas of 140, 147 pounds. You know, because I think Jose Ramirez is real good. I think he's way better than Mikey. And I definitely think Virgil Ortiz would do Sandor Martin in like real badly, bro. Like, because I think Virgil Ortiz like is on another level. You know what I mean? At 147 pounds. Um, But yeah, man, Sandor Martin could actually like do something off of this Mikey win, even though it wasn't a world championship. But he still beat a former pound for pound fighter, and his only loss was to what, like a top 147-pound fighter. That's like the consensus number one at 147. But to me, that really doesn't matter because I'm just waiting for somebody to become undisputed there. So what Sandor should do, I think if Virgil Ortiz could get a fight with him, I think Virgil Ortiz should get a fight with Sandor Martin or Jose Ramirez, either guy, because I don't know like what weight class Sandor Martin fights at, because this is my first time hearing about him, and I don't know if he's at 140 or 147. But if he's at either weight class, I would love to see Jose Ramirez or Virgil Ortiz like fight either of those guys, you know? Or yeah, like I want to see Sandor Martin fight Jose Ramirez at 140, or if he's at 147, Virgil Ortiz, you know? Uh it would be a little complicated if Jose Ramirez were to fight him, you know, because of the southpaw style, and he did have a lot of problems with southpaws. You know, I saw that in the Josh Taylor fight, so there would be some type of resistance, you know, with Sandor Martin against Jose Ramirez. But with Virgil Ortiz, man, Virgil Ortiz, I think is way too powerful, but it would be a good step up fight for him and a good build up, you know what I mean? And you could market that whole story about you took down one of my trainers' brothers and that used to train with me a lot and spar with me a lot. So I'm gonna take you down type of deal. So I think that's a good fight for Virgil Ortiz as a build-up, but I don't really see Sandor Martin surviving that at all. So maybe stay at 140 pounds, man. You know, 140 pounds is good for him, and try to milk it as much as he can. You know what I mean? Be the antagonist, like, haha, yeah, I'm from Spain. Woo, yeah, I'm gonna take over your holidays now, type of shit. You know what I mean? But I don't really see him having that much of a chance, like at 147 pounds. So I think he should just stay down at 140 pounds. Stay safe there, man. You know, like don't even try to push yourself to thinking like that you could take on Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence. I get it though. I get it that you want to have like the whole fighter's mentality, you know, that you could beat anybody. But damn, man, Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, you would get eviscerated, man. Horribly eviscerated. So, 140 pounds, yeah, I would like it for him. Jose Ramirez would be my pick for the fight. I don't think I've seen Jose Ramirez fight for a while since he fought Josh Taylor. So I gotta really look into that. But anyways, there's not really much going on in boxing. Well, besides like the next couple months. So I am kind of like looking forward to those fights, but I'm kind of expecting to hear about the schedule for 2022, man, because we're already closing out October and we're going into like the main events of the year, you know, that are gonna happen in November, you know, with Caleb Plant, Canelo, Terrence Crawford versus Sean Porter. And those are gonna be telling fights, man, because you've been getting a lot of upsets this year. Let's talk about it, man. The upsets. Man, do we even need to get started? And I'm loving it. I'm loving the upsets because it's looking like all of that energy is going to be transferred into November 6th. For those of you who know that Caleb Plant is going to win it November 6th. So I'm still standing on that. You know what I mean? This fight, Sandor Martin versus Mikey Garcia, has made me a lot more confident now, even though it's a completely different style matchup, man. But you could feel it, man, that Caleb's Plant's confidence is just going to go up even more and stuff, you know? And I know there's such thing as overconfidence and stuff, but I think Caleb Plant is going to be a lot more focused. I don't think he's that type of character that would be too overconfident to overlook something. I'm pretty sure he learned his lesson from the Uskatiki fight. I understand that he was losing like some parts of the fight, but the thing is, fighters learn, and many fighters have said this every time that you interview them, they're gonna say, well, it depends, man, because like other fighters learn, like you're not always gonna face the same guy that this other guy fought. So just to be on the lookout for that. And you could possibly say the same thing about Terrence Crawford versus Sean Porter. Even though I think that Terrence Crawford is very skilled and has a very huge shot at beating Sean Porter, there's a lot of things, man, that come into it. Like Sean Porter's a real good boxer. He's a well-rounded boxer than given credit for, and he could really channel into that. You know what I mean? He could make adjustments on the fly himself. That's why he fought at the high level for a long time. So that's what I think about it, y'all. You know, all of these fights that are happening, but I'm kind of expecting a lot more to turn up in 2022. That's when we're gonna see some legacy defining fights, like fights that are actually gonna be the pinnacle, you know what I mean, of our generation that we're watching right now. All of the fighters that we knew, like from the 2010s that were at the top level, have all retired, have all left. Now it's their it is their time. You know what I mean? It's their time to show like who's gonna be undisputed, who's gonna be like their fighters of the who's gonna be the fighters of the generation here. I think 2022, 2023 is really gonna determine that. You know what I mean? We're gonna start seeing a lot more movement from these divisions. I would hope so. I really hope so, to be honest. Like, cause I don't want to put my expectations too high, but just based on what we're seeing, like with what's happening in this part of the year, 2022 should and has to be the year that everybody starts putting bullshit aside, and we're gonna start seeing some movement, and we're really gonna talk about this this year, next year, the following year, for years to come. Like from 20 years from now, 10, 30 years, whatever you want to call it, man. Like there's a lot of stuff that needs to be happen, like fights that are overdue. Well, it's time to end it, man. 2022 should be the year. But that's all I have to say about this. Let me know what y'all think. And appreciate y'all stopping by, even though like nobody's leaving comments, but I understand that because I have my 6 month subs only on. So appreciate y'all stopping by and maybe leaving a like. Uh, if y'all want to talk about this whole Mikey thing a lot more, then you could continue to talk about it with me. You know what I mean? In the comment section after the replay. If you have anything against what I'm saying, about Mikey Garcia, then I'm all for it, man. But there's a lot of stuff that's gonna go on in 2022 that I really need to look for, that I really want to look forward to. So appreciate y'all stopping by, and I'm already out, y'all. Peace.